We have already presented the Nio EL8 to you in a traditional review, complete with an in-depth test drive, and demonstrated what this impressive 653 horsepower beast, and I genuinely mean that in a positive way, is truly capable of achieving. Now we want to get on the highway and take a look to see if it proves to be efficient as well. What's the fuel consumption at 100, 120, 140, 160 kilometers per hour? How fast can it go on the HPC fast charging station refill when there's no Nio power swap station available nearby? And what about its travel comfort? What's the suspension feel like? How does the navigation system perform with charging planning included? We want to explore all of this with you in this video featuring the Nio EL8. Before we get started, please take a moment to check if you have the necessary mileage for this efficiency drive. You can simply subscribe to us for free at einfach and keep updated. Assist us in advancing the development of electromobility just a little further than before. And we would simply be happy if you could support us with that. But now we don't want to waste any time and take this big, chunky electric SUV on the highway and see what it consumes. We are currently driving on the A20 highway, heading in a northerly direction towards the Kreiswaldstraße, and we want to discuss the starting point with all of you. The Nio EL8 is an electric SUV that weighs roughly 2.6 tons. It features two electric motors, with one located on each of the driven axles, both at the front and the rear, and it offers an impressive total system performance of up to 653 horsepower. This allows it to accelerate swiftly from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in a matter of just 4.1 seconds. The top speed, however, is something we plan to verify together with you later in the video. Yes, we have him on winter tires. We have 9 degrees. Now here at the end of November. Stefan, and what kind of tires do we have on?
20-inch? 255.
Exactly, so we also have a slightly increased rolling resistance due to the winter tires. Yes, what we unfortunately don't have in the Nio EL8 is a classic onboard computer that allows us to reset the driving values. This means that we only have the ability to view the consumption data for the last 10 kilometers or for the last 100 kilometers. That's a minor downside compared to competitors, where it's easily done. I think it's a bit of a shame too. It's something that many have been criticizing for about 2 years now, since Nio came to Germany with the ET7, that they simply can't get it implemented based on feedback, but stubbornly persists in its systematics. Absolutely right, and let's explore what Nomi actually has to say, since that's our little language assistant here, which also includes Nomi GPT and all the related features for the Nio EL8. Let's ask it now. Hey Nomi.
Hey.
What do you think about the Nio EL8?
The Nio EL8 is an electric SUV featuring advanced technology, luxury amenities, and long range. He showcases Nio's innovation in the electric vehicle sector and addresses the global market.
Let's dive into this test together without wasting any time at all. I propose we jump straight into our first assessment of consumption values without any further delays. We have the adaptive cruise control feature of the Nio assistance system carefully set to a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. We currently have 49 kilometers, so this means when we hit around 59 kilometers, we will show the last 10 kilometers on the onboard computer screen for you, along with the consumption details. Determine the time we can bridge to talk to you extensively about the advanced assistance systems present in the new EL8. We have integrated a variety of high-tech sensors, multiple sophisticated radar systems, as well as comprehensive camera systems, which enable Nio to essentially keep a complete watch over its surroundings, thus offering optimal semi-autonomous support for the driver. It's important to point out that this new system in the semi-autonomous domain is rapidly closing in on market leaders like those from the VW Group, as well as industry giants BMW and Mercedes. So he's maintaining the center of the lane very nicely, even in this slight curve. Even in sharper curves, even at higher speeds, it can regulate the distance very, very well. This means that you have steering assistance, you have a lane keeping assistant available, and you even have the functionality of a lane change assistant. We're definitely going to be demonstrating it to you once again later on in this particular video too. Where he doesn't quite impress me as much, to be perfectly honest, is
Please steer the wheel.
in the predictive area. He doesn't actually have that. Predictive means, and the VW Group, BMW and Mercedes can do this, driving proactively. That means they are aware of navigation data through long-range cameras, how speeds, change and then adjust the vehicle's speed accordingly towards the sign. Even set up at BMW with speeding ability included.
Yeah, good.
A rogue who thinks ill of what organic goods bring us, the NIO can't do that. It recognizes the speed, then gives a signal, and we have to confirm either the lower or higher speed via the steering wheel button so it can adjust accordingly. And I would just wish, especially in the premium luxury segment, as Nomi mentioned earlier, where NIO sees itself, that they should really aim to align with the best systems and not settle for somewhere in between, right?
No, not really, you know.
But what NIO has improved on with the EL8, and this somewhat falls under driver assistance, is finally installing matrix LED headlights. That means they are headlights capable of illuminating specific sections of the road without dazzling or blinding oncoming traffic or the vehicles ahead. And particularly during nighttime driving, that's really incredibly helpful. Once again, just a bit of constructive feedback to consider. It's fantastic that you have Matrix, but it definitely isn't the very best Matrix light that money can currently purchase. Like the high-tech digital lights featured in the Mercedes EQS SUV.
Okay.
And when it comes to the brightness, it doesn't match up to the crystal clear, incredibly bright and razor-sharp quality that the Germans typically incorporate in their high-end premium systems. I think that NIO still has some room for improvement in that area. However, they have made further advancements by upgrading the EL8 with a better head-up display compared to the ET7, offering more detailed information and comprehensive support for the driver. Provides to the driver. NIO is certainly progressing rapidly, frequently implementing over-the-air updates into their systems approximately every few weeks, usually in the range of 2 to 4 weeks. Similar to how the American supercar manufacturer operates, I can envision them swiftly closing the gap in these areas and potentially even surpassing us as their skills and technologies grow. We've successfully completed the first section. Take a look, Stefan. We've actually traveled a distance of 60 kilometers up to this point. That means we also drove an average of 100 kilometers per hour continuously for 11 kilometers, and we have a consumption of 21.1 kilowatt hours for every 100 kilometers. That's really quite decent, don't you think?
Yes, that's okay, yes.
In defense of the Nio EL8, though not its defender, it's 2.6 tons, 5.10 meters long, 1.98 meters wide, and 1.75 meters high. And of course, it offers a suitable frontal area. The CW value is stated as 0.25. That was very good, yes.
For a truly massive Colossus.
For such a Colossus, but with about 9 degrees, I find that the consumption isn't really that noticeable, is it?
Nah, everything's good.
We'll go ahead and make adjustments to raise the adaptive cruise control speed setting to 120 kilometers per hour right alongside you. He has now achieved that as well. We have traveled a distance of 61.7 kilometers. Consequently, when we reach 73 kilometers, we will take a moment to discuss the next consumption with you all. I am now basically a cool road runner. You gotta have a really cool lid too, right? And Nio does indeed offer a really quite adequate sound system, I must say.
Lovely room.
So without having to tap into the Bose, Harman, Kardon, Burmester, or any cuckoo soundbox like Dual Audio, they simply went ahead and delivered remarkably. Absolutely. It certainly seems that time has come again. We carefully take a close look at the trip odometer, and it currently reads 45.5 miles. This essentially implies we have driven more than 10 kilometers now, averaging 120 kilometers per hour, and have a consumption of 24,4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That's probably expected, right?
Yes, sure.
If we look at the 100 kilometers per hour value, yes, that's a value. That's definitely ambitious, but also not a value that surprises us in any way. Because if we consider competitors now, such as the Audi Q8 e-tron or perhaps the Mercedes EQS SUV or even the BMW iX, it's evident that we already have quite similar values, I do believe, in the performance charts. Yes, exactly, and that's where you see, as I mentioned, the design and weight of the vehicle really begin to significantly show their important impact. Particularly when we find ourselves within a temperature range of 9 degrees, it might not precisely be considered the ideal comfort zone for electromobility, resulting in less efficiency.
Sure.
At first, we needed to bypass a speed restriction zone and then carefully set the distance control cruise control to maintain the speed of 140 kilometers per hour. We currently have 85.3 kilometers on the trip odometer. We want to find out with you over the next good 10 kilometers how the consumption develops at an average speed of 140 kilometers per hour with the Nio EL8. A great electric SUV isn't just about having an awesome sound system, but also about having a comprehensive infotainment system along with proper route planning, including charging planning, plus intuitive voice control. We already established that it works properly well. Nomi GPT is on board as well, so it's kind of the latest hot stuff. But whether we can simply input such a target guidance, we really need to try that out. Hey Nomi. Kindly take us to Munich to Viktualienmarkt 1.
Should I navigate to Viktualienmarkt 1 now?
That already sounds quick and smooth. And she basically also has a route plus alternative routes there and is now planning the charging stops, respectively the battery swaps.
We're all set and ready. Should I start navigation? Select the preferred route. The navigation process will begin shortly.
That implies she essentially planned out the complete route, incorporating the charging strategy and possibly even including battery swaps along the way. That's possible depending on the particular route you're taking, or maybe not. And I believe the system, which has now reached a level that can be considered on par with the systems from our German premium manufacturers. Stefan, isn't it? Yes, that's right.
Sure, above all, it proceeded quickly after.
If you happen to have the opportunity to swap, I highly recommend it. Then go ahead and use it because we demonstrated this with the Nio ET7 during our extensive journey of over 2,048 kilometers. That it's quite a really cool story as we traveled from Neustrelitz all the way to Zurich and back. 3 times each way, doing swaps and never recharging once. Yes, precisely. And that's obviously a major time advantage when we swap batteries instead of charging, because charging the Nio EL8 with the latest battery generation and up to 240 kilowatts at the peak can take approximately about 20 minutes from 10 up to 80%. The problem is also that when you've swapped the battery, you might end up with a first-generation battery that can't charge as quickly, meaning you'd have to charge for a leisurely 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, not cool at all.
That means later, when we perform the charging check with you, we will also determine if the Nio EL8 still has the battery of the latest generation, so to speak, after delivery, or if this press car has already been swapped multiple times and we have an older battery and need to charge longer.
Yeah, let's hope for the best.
And that's something I definitely want to address and discuss with you all. I find it rather suboptimal that Nio does not provide the new batteries for the newer generation vehicles in the battery swap stations, because I'm really not in the mood anymore to buy a new car. Then basically rent the battery or maybe even subscribe to or lease the whole car, and then I get a first-gen battery and have to charge it, hanging around aimlessly.
Yes, indeed. Plus, you're still paying regular costs if you pick the biggest battery or similar. You've got the latest model, but suddenly you're back to the old version and you're still ending up paying just the same amount.
Yeah, go ahead and write in the comments what you think about it. So A, your opinion on power swapping, and B, how you feel about buying a car with the latest generation battery, which could peak at approximately 240 kilowatts and in about 20 minutes from 10 to 80%, and then he swaps the battery and suddenly it's charging like a first-generation car. We have established a new consumption value, which is 33. 9 kilowatt hours for every 100 kilometers traveled at the average speed driven of 140 kilometers per hour. Yeah, he's taking a good swig from the bottle now, Stefan, right?
Yes, that's indeed somewhat a little bit more.
So, From that perspective, with an SUV like this, you probably have to expect higher fuel consumption at higher speeds. Logically?
Yeah, sure, definitely, yes. That's quite a hefty weight he's carrying here.
Though since all electric cars are like that, but here the increase is, I find, even more exponential than with a sedan.
Yes, right.
We completed a U-turn with you here on the A20 highway. Just past the Stralsund junction and are now driving in a southbound direction heading towards Berlin. The current speed is 114 kilometers per hour. We now want to consistently drive with you at 160 kilometers per hour using the adaptive cruise control and see how that affects the consumption at the Nio EL8 developed at 160 kilometers per hour average speed. A good electric car naturally includes appropriate travel comfort. For this, the Nio EL8 seemingly also features a special suspension to receive an advanced air suspension system that is specifically designed to provide passengers with the utmost level of comfort possible in this particular vehicle class, so to speak. In order to properly test that out, you clearly need a new vehicle, medium, and that's precisely what we have achieved with Stefan's popometer. So, Stefan, how is it performing here on the A20 highway today?
The seat is really comfortable, I must say. It's truly great. I think it's amazing that I can adjust it in absolutely all directions. And just try out this comfort position while you're driving along. It's actually really quite relaxing. Yes, talking about the suspension, I also feel it's really smooth, very nice and comfortable. No big surprises. Hand movements, what else is there? It handles the bumps in the road very smoothly. Yes, I like it.
Yes, I can confirm that, especially when it comes to transverse joints, track waves, or ground waves. He navigates over it pretty comfortably, although it's perhaps not as cushy and smooth as a Mercedes EQS SUV. He simply opted for a more contemporary and sportier approach, possibly, but certainly not uncomfortable in any way, as it simply wouldn't accommodate those typically cozy and plush TV armchair seats one might expect. Something that Nio has also executed well is that even with swift lane changes, you hardly notice any. Body roll. It's all quite refined and very enjoyable. Also want to take the Nio EL8 on a long-distance trip, and we will do that in the third video where we travel over 1,500 kilometers with you with the Nio EL8. First, we will drive to central Germany, then to the west, and then back up to the northeast. So we can just have a look. How do power swaps work? What's the long-distance consumption like? We want to check it every 100 kilometers. How consumption develops, especially when we drive through the low mountain ranges here in Thuringia and Hesse. So please ensure you don't miss the third video, where we'll thoroughly explore the aspects of ride comfort and naturally delve into consumption and the concept of power swapping. And last but not least, now for the final consumption value. We drove at a constant speed of 160 kilometers per hour and had a consumption of 45 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That kind of brings to mind somewhat our Swedish friends who are into building electric cars.
Yeah, the Volvos, yep.
And I don't even know if we've ever had a 45. I think we were always just a bit under. Let's just go ahead and take a look at the tables. We have all the tested vehicles listed there, and now we're including the Nio EL8. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about the consumption figures of the others, as well as the Nio EL8 in comparison. We are quite eager to discover the top speed together with you and to conduct a full acceleration test as soon as the truck has cleared the left lane entirely. We're going 97 km/h. I do a kickdown in Sport Plus. 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170 km/h. It pulls through nicely here. Locker schafft er 180 Stundenkilometer, ganz mühelos 190. Wir kommen so langsam immer näher an die 200 heran. Das soll ja auch der Top speed, by the way, is electronically limited in this case. With the ET7, you will notice that when you sustain 200 for an extended period, it eventually cuts the power and gradually reduces us to a speed of 180 to safeguard the electric motors. I don't see why they would state a top speed of 200 kilometers per hour.
If I'm just able to drive at 50 kilometers anyway.
Absolutely, we want to do the charging check with you very soon. I've already put Ionity in as the designated charging station so that the Nio EL8 also possesses the capability to precondition the battery to heat it sufficiently so that we can truly experience the maximum charging peak. We're keeping it steady at 200 kilometers per hour, a slightly wet road, nice long right curve. I have to say, it handles well.
Yes, it holds up nicely.
And that's why I honestly believe you can travel quite swiftly with him, enjoying a smooth and fast journey, allowing you to comfortably go at higher speeds without any issues. Also be able to drive through curves. We'll try that out with you in the third video as well, through the foothills of the Castle Mountains up ahead. And now the drive protection is active and it reduces to 180 kilometers per hour. Stefan, there it is again.
Yeah, there he is again.
We're curious to know in the comments if you like or dislike the concept of being restricted to the speed of 180 kilometers per hour. However, if you look at consumption over 160, I don't even want to know what the consumption is if you're constantly driving at 200. Yes, that will also probably lead to having a shorter driving range. We have arrived at our destination, the Demanaland rest area with the Ionity charging points, and now we want to charge from the battery level of 10% as shown by the vehicle up to 80% with you. I'm mostly curious about which battery we have installed here, or Stefan, what do you think?
Yes, I'm definitely hoping that we have the latest generation installed here.
I hope so too, so we can show our viewers how cool it is to charge the Nio EL8 to 80% in just over 20 minutes. And I'd really wish it for us too, so we don't end up losing more time.
Correct.
With 10% charge, we have indeed arrived at the charging station. You can see this clearly on the display, and it's slowly but surely building up to reach the charging peak. I believe the previous generation was capable of charging at approximately 128 to 130 kilowatts, if I remember the battery pack specifications correctly. And the newer generation can effectively charge at nearly double the speed, then achieving over 240 kilowatts at its peak charging capacity. Yes, he's just fiddling around here nicely in his own way. That means we're kind of reaching around 90 kilowatts at this very moment, and a lot of things really point to that conclusion. That unfortunately we have a first-generation battery installed here. This means that the press vehicle has had to do a battery swap more frequently, and then it's quite possible that you essentially end up with the older generation of batteries installed in the system. Yes, I'm curious about your opinion on that, how you see it, because when you have a car of the latest generation and then you switch the battery to the old generation, it's kind of a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, that's definitely a shame then.
But what might be happy for you is perhaps my tip on how you can charge for free. We've been taking full advantage of this for over 46,000 kilometers by utilizing the InCharge app or the web browser to conduct our online shopping using affiliate links, thoroughly assess charging stations, or engage in thrilling and exciting electric car challenges. You can find InCharge in the video description through the link. Feel free to check it out. It might be interesting for you too. Then how we managed to charge for free and cover a distance of over 46,000 kilometers. I'm curious what you'll say about InCharge. Link is in the video description. And what's just as uncool as the first generation battery is that it apparently also, even though the battery heater was activated during the drive, can decide for itself whether he joins in or not. We then also entered the destination Ionity here, apparently didn't manage to precondition the battery correctly. Because he's still dawdling here with 100, 500, 600 kilowatts at 16%, 17%, even after 3-4 minutes. I believe it's all somewhat more a step towards the past rather than looking forward into the future. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, definitely.
And you have to praise the manufacturers who have 800-volt systems. And that's already available in the Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6, and the Ioniq 6 in a price range that's almost half of the Nio EL8. I'm wondering why not make this available at least for Nio, particularly in the European market. In China, it might be different. A battery is swapped every 1,8 seconds there, and it's more or less like having charging stations, but they're swapping stations. During the transition phase, until we perhaps have those swapping stations everywhere, it's definitely important to focus on fast charging. So it's not really about the 400-800 volt topic, but rather simply about having the latest generation cars where you're somehow also, yes, marketing-wise and teased with purchases, and yes, also has it in the first battery, then also in the swapping station, always changing to the new generation battery because somehow 19-20 batteries fit there, and where we swapped, there were usually only 2 to 6 in stock. So there would be room to say that cars of the new generation then also get the newer battery system, and batteries of the older generation, well, I don't know, write it in the comments. But maybe the older generation, but this mixing, I find it's also a mix of loading speed. And that might be, for me personally, if I were driving long distances on a daily basis, perhaps even a significant deal breaker. Because seriously now, with 102 kilowatts after 5 minutes and 20%, we're probably going to be charging here for like 40 minutes, right? We can conveniently bridge the loading time by giving you another look at the Nio EL8 from the outside again. From the outside, in my opinion, it looks really, really attractive, particularly with this sleek modern line and the almost completely continuous rear light strip situated at the back. Additionally, with the different camera systems, elegantly built into the rear spoiler, the rear wiper is not simply placed on top here. I must say I really like the design, very, very good. It's modern and forward-thinking, especially with the retractable door handles that are supposed to optimize aerodynamics. So the 20-inch winter wheels, which might currently come with an aerodynamic design that focuses a bit more on fuel efficiency rather than just aesthetics, can of course be exchanged for some really stylish 21-inch alternatives. There's a suitable option for every taste available. In summer, wheels can go up to 22 inches. Black then here with a sort of sloping coupe-like line, I like it. Privacy glazing with black trim and black mirrors, it really looks quite chic, especially when combined with the very nice silver-grey metallic color it has. Wouldn't you agree, Stefan? Yes?
Looks good.
It's not so bright silver, nor is it too dark grey. Actually, it's a nice color that goes well with the black accents. And from the front, it looks nice and aggressive, really strong. Nio does a very good job with the design, both for the sedans and the SUVs. Nice with the separated daytime running lights, and down here, like in the EL6 and now in the EL8, we finally have the Matrix LED headlights, which I think should be standard in this vehicle class. Yes, what's striking about Nio, we'll show you again, is the big, fat LiDAR sensor and, of course, also the cameras up here. In the head, plus cameras in the windshield, cameras on the side facing back. So you are truly surrounded by cameras everywhere with this. However, where you aren't as surrounded is when it comes to achieving high charging speed. We're now just below 100 kW, cruising here with 98 kW at 25%, and we've recharged 13.3 kilowatt hours in 8 minutes. Yes, when you consider it, the car costs 82,990 euros basic, with the executive package like ours, even 87,090 euros without a battery included. Small battery pack, 75 kilowatt hours, 12,000 euros. Large one, 100 kilowatt hours like we have, 21,000 euros. Then we easily slide over the 100,000 euro mark. And once we've swapped the battery, with this press vehicle and just slowly dawdling around here, I must admit, I really lose my patience.
Yeah, that's no fun.
And not just the patience, but also the leisure, because others can simply do it better. That's where I really appreciate an Eco S SUV, which has a usable net of 118 kilowatt hours and just 205 kilowatts max, but then it has a nice high charging peak and in 31 minutes. Recharges 118 kilowatt hours net.
Yeah, it's genuinely amazing.
BMW also charges over 200 kilowatts in the BMW iX. The only one charging a bit slowly might be a Chinese model, like a BYD Tang or so, you know? Where I'm just trying to say something along the lines of, sure, you might need to adjust a little more to match the performance standards we have over here in Europe, because we'll see if it's possible for us to go continuously to Rüsselsheim, Cologne, Essen, and eventually make our way back through Hanover to Neustrelitz, won't we? Honestly, I really don't have any desire to load again with the Rito.
No, that just ruins the vibe.
Reaching 50% after 22 minutes total. He's now recharged in those 22 minutes a total of 35 kilowatt hours. He's now merely idling along with just 89 kilowatts, slowly making progress. But I have to say, I'm truly at a loss for words.
With the new battery, we would have been done by now.
So feel free to write in the comments how you perceive or interpret it. By the way, we actually took a nice little coffee break, thinking that perhaps we might not even make it to 50%. Well, I'm really at the end, you know. We have actually done it. From 10 to 80% in just 43 minutes, we managed to add 63 kilowatt hours. So we're not even reaching 1.5 kilowatt hours per minute, and we're just cruising around with 64 kilowatts here. Stefan, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm really frustrated with how I actually am here.
This somehow reminds me of those early days when we first started making videos. So, Spring 2020, Kira Nio EV back in those days charged for roughly about 45 minutes or so, and then it somehow did something. I honestly don't even remember what exactly. 40 kilowatt hours or so.
I was just hoping that by now we would be past these points, that at some point all manufacturers would catch up and say, hey, come on, 10, 80, a maximum of 30 minutes, and then departure.
It costs like the 2.5-ton Kia Niro EV, and it was efficient enough for a 400-kilometer range. With the car, you're not driving 400 kilometers with a full battery, right?
Sure, yep.
Probably if you're somehow eco-friendly behind the truck at 95 or so, but with a jacket on and the climate control off. Yeah, I'm curious how our road trip will go. We'll be driving over 1,500 kilometers with the young one, so we can only hope and pray, especially for those interested in a car, that we still have a swapping station. Honestly, I don't feel like dawdling for 43 minutes somewhere else. Let's move on to the next. Intermediate summary. It's an intermediate conclusion indeed, because we still have the entire road trip ahead of us. We've already done a bit of scribbling here for you in advance as a teaser. That means we'll probably do a battery swap in Berlin-Spandau after driving 238 kilometers, which will take about 7 minutes. Then proceed from Berlin to Schkeuditz, where we'll also perform a battery swap efficiently. Schkeuditz is near Leipzig, known from Schkeuditz Cross on a 9. Yes, and then just before reaching Frankfurt on the route heading towards Rüsselsheim, you'll find Reiskirchen. At that particular location, we are going to perform another battery swap, and if everything goes according to plan, we should then somehow manage to arrive successfully in Rüsselsheim, as one might say. Yeah, let's reach the interim conclusion of the EL8 from the consumption drive with the charging check. I think the consumption figures speak for themselves. I don't even need to comment on them any further. They're just, perhaps due to the temperature, the design of an electric SUV, and considering its weight, they're really quite ambitious. I think that's still the positive formulation, but we know that from other large electric SUVs, aka also from the Mercedes EQS SUV as well. I also wanted to show you the lane change. We'll do that right here now. He's going to do it nicely on his own. Partially autonomous, it works really wonderfully. Bam, it's smoothly in the left lane, and we'll also move it back over to the right lane with you all again, so you can clearly see that at the very least, the lane change feature is functioning excellently. Yeah, I stopped it here because I made a mistake, whatever. To make a long story short, the consumption is quite high, but that's the same with the Q8 Audi e-tron, and it was relatively high with the BMW iX as well, and the EQS SUV didn't have low consumption either, so in that regard, it plays on the same level in the size category with vehicles that can accommodate up to 6 people. Where he doesn't play the piano with these people, it's essentially like with the charging speed of the vehicle.
Yes, quite unfortunately.
Well, I'm really disappointed because up here in the northeast, there's no power swapping station. So basically all you're left with is charging. And who really feels like spending a leisurely 43 minutes to charge from 10 to 80?
That's pretty much it, actually.
So, and that's also, in my opinion, the downside, that if you get the fast battery initially, you could very likely lose it on the first long distance journey you take. Yeah. Otherwise, the travel comfort is really top-notch, semi-autonomous driving, lane changing works excellently again, great space, superb seats, excellent trunk, really large, especially when you're just traveling with 2 rows of seats. So look here, it works everywhere. The lane change also happens automatically here to the right.
That's great, it all works.
Yeah, it's really quite impressive, and I find myself a bit frustrated because I've actually grown pretty fond of the Nio EL8 over the past few weeks.
Yes, absolutely. The car is very suitable too.
So, and you don't need to comment like, why are you getting upset? In 43 minutes, you can have a nice lunch. Yes, hello. I loaded at 11 o'clock today. Who eats lunch at 11? So in 2.5 hours, I'll be in Berlin then. It's 2:30. I've basically already had lunch by then, right?
Sure, yeah.
So, and then I continue to Rüsselsheim. So, and then I wouldn't have dinner at 5 o'clock in between, right? Well, I believe you can definitely put a positive spin on practically everything in e-mobility, right?
Yes, sure, we can do that.
So, and I'll just go ahead and say, in the price range of around 100,000 euros, I expect that you should be able to recharge for at least half an hour. Yeah, doesn't matter if it's a new battery, old battery, what kind of battery, 400 volts, 800 volts, 900 volts, any kind of volt, it's all good. I don't always want to harp on the 800 volt system of the Taycan, the Macan, or the new Mercedes, which all managed to do it somehow in 20 to 24 minutes. NIO really needs to find a way so that those who purchase a new car equipped with the latest battery generation can actually keep that new battery even when swapping. Well, I genuinely wish to perhaps, lend some thoughtful support by sharing my opinion a bit more. And it's evident that it works because when we take a look at the swapping station here, see, there are 4 batteries available right here, for instance, currently here in Spandau, making it a total of 6. However, a total of 19 fit in there. This means I can put 4 old, 4 new, plus 2 old and 2 new from the standard range, and the station still isn't completely full yet. And can also let those who have bought new generations swap them for a new generation, right?
Sounds good, yes.
So how can I precisely determine and identify which of the 4 different new long-range generations is currently installed in my car? So I can get back to the new generation? Yes, I can't either. You end up with whatever is given to you in the exchange, don't you? And honestly, the thing is you really have no clue what you're actually going to get beforehand. I truly believe that Nio should definitely take the necessary time to carefully consider if it's beneficial for encouraging more people to choose power swapping and opt for Nio over other alternatives in the future. Feel free to share your opinion in the comments. And with that, we've reached the end of today's video. And it's really beneficial that we're creating these videos so you might be as thoroughly informed as possible about the latest developments in electric cars. All the more important is it that you maybe check if you're part of the Simply Electric Cozy community, perhaps support us with your subscription for our work a little bit free of charge, so that you'll always receive a timely notification in the future when the bell lights up and the newest video is online, ensuring you won't miss any videos like this moving forward. A thumbs up would be great, and I say thank you very much for watching. Stay healthy and see you soon. Yours, Ollie, you, Stefan. But what's really cool is that the EL6 and the EL8 have finally got matrix headlights now.
Yeah, that's really great.
To avoid dazzling oncoming traffic and illuminate areas, especially in the dark. Is really one of the best ways nowadays to move around safely in the dark